Yeah, a lot's happened at Man City since we last spoke, hasn't there? So we'll start off by reflecting on their thumping 8-0 FA Cup win over Salford City last weekend. City comfortably through to the next round. That's three wins in a row now for Pep Guardiola's side and unbeaten in their last four. There were plenty of positives to take from that match, weren't there? He had a hat trick from James McAtee, of course, his first goals at the Etihad, first senior goal for both Nico O'Reilly and Divin Mubama as well. A much needed goal for Jack Grealish, his first in over a year, and an impressive display from players like Jeremy Doku, who contributed to three goals on the day. So, what stood out for you, Stephen? What were the main things you've taken away from City's big win over Salford?
Um, Mainly it was just fun to see your back. No, we're not. It was only Salford, but there was something pretty satisfying from a City fan's perspective about seeing five goals from academy lads against a side owned by, former Man United academy players. It just felt a little bit satisfying seeing Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes look quite sad in the stands. I can't deny that as a City fan. But all away from that sort of rivalry stuff, yeah, it was seeing those young lads get some minutes. It was seeing the goals find the back of the net because Guardiola, I think notably after the game made a point of talking about how he wants goal contributions from his attackers, that they have to. I can't remember the exact quote, but I'm sure maybe we'll talk about it. But he basically talked about how his forwards need to score goals, and not many things encourage that more than having a game where you score eight. Like I think largely confidence is what City need right now. Returning players from injuries, of course, and transfers and so on. But we spoke quite a bit after the positive results recently about even though the performance wasn't perfect, the more players that find some way of being happy, some way of being confident, to take anything you can from a game, the better. And right now we're seeing these incremental little gains where this guy has a good game and he's a bit happier than that guy has a good game. And before you know it, four, five, six, seven, eight players are feeling that they're in a good place and things are going well for them. And that starts to help the team. And this was very much another step in the right direction. There's something just satisfying. There's always something satisfying about battering any team, regardless of who they are. The fact is, Salford makes it fun, given the sort of United connections and all that kind of stuff. But just seeing City score eight goals after a couple of months, if we're being honest, a strange and dramatic few months, it just felt like something close to Manchester City again. And I think the whole team will take a lot from that. Of course, the stories around James McAtee and Nico O'Reilly, the young lad Mubama making his debut up front as well. But it was more than that, as you mentioned. Grealish and Doku, I think they needed that too. And overall, the game was satisfying because it felt fun. And we forget that the most important thing in football is confidence, and that tends to come from when the players are enjoying themselves. And that was fun. I think the fans enjoyed it. I think the players enjoyed it, and I think Manchester City needed it.
Yeah, it was a great day for several players. I mean, you mentioned McAtee there, really special moment for him to get that hat trick, and another academy player, Nico O'Reilly. What were your thoughts on him playing at left back? I thought he did really well. I think a lot of City fans were probably interested to see how City would line up when they realised that there was only two natural defenders in Guardiola's side. You had Mateus Nunes at right back and O'Reilly at left back, and Guardiola's full of praise for him after the game. He said he's another Man City talent, another Man City player that City trust a lot. It was some interesting quotes about him in midfield as well. He said he has the conditions to play holding midfield, but maybe doesn't believe he can do this. So, what are your thoughts on those and the possibility of him playing maybe a bit more at left back?
I thought he was excellent. To be honest, he was probably my man of the match, actually. I know McAtee got the hat trick, Doku a couple of goals, and so on, but I thought Nico O'Reilly was absolutely fantastic in a very unfamiliar role. And a lot of people probably won't be uh, in the know of his journey as a footballer, but Nico O'Reilly is not a left back. He's not even a defensive midfielder. He started out as an attacking midfielder. Sometimes it's a false nine. I saw him quite a bit for the under 18s when he was making his debut at 15 years old, and he came on essentially as a forward. Often playing just off the strike or as a false nine or sort of a striker himself, given his height and his natural calmness in front of goal. Always played much further forward, and Guardiola, I think, is very smartly and very astutely noticed his physical capabilities. They offer so much more potential than just waiting for the ball up top and waiting for um, the right moment to create something. I think to be he could be a very good attacker, but I think Guardiola thinks he could be a genuinely special midfielder in terms of his complete physicality. Like if you look at him against Salford, it was just Salford, but the way he shrugs people off the ball with such ease because he's 6'3", because he's got those long, angly legs, and then he can stride past people with that sort of, once again, that elegant, powerful stride. If you could somehow turn that, into a defensive understanding as well, he could be a very good attacker, but he could absolutely potentially dominate games in midfield. And I think that skill set that he's got is so unique that Guardiola looks obviously Rodri, 6'3", powerful, technically excellent, who can score a goal and strike a ball, and he sees Nico O'Reilly, who is 6'3", powerful, technically excellent, and can strike a ball. And he probably thinks if this guy can learn how to defend a little bit, he could be a genuinely brilliant midfielder. He made a quote afterwards saying that maybe Nico doesn't believe in it, and doesn't quite believe. I do wonder if Guardiola's saying over to you there, you've got to sort of show that you want this role. And at left back there, he was really good. Rico Lewis, there's been a bit of criticism about his physicality. He's on the other end of the spectrum for Nico O'Reilly. Like he's willing and able and he works really hard, but you can see sometimes he gets pushed off the ball a little bit. But Nico O'Reilly, you just can't do that to him. He's absolutely massive and technically he's solid. He has that eye for goal, scored a really nice goal after playing a long 1-2 with Doku. He gave him the ball, Doku did his thing and then came back to him and put it in the bottom corner. I think there's a footballer there. I think there's a really, really interesting footballer there who I think City should keep around the team. I've got a real worry that Nico O'Reilly could end up doing a Morgan Rogers type route where he moves to a championship side and within a year some Premier League sides going, he's great, he's brilliant. He can keep the ball, he's strong, he's powerful, he can score goals. And before you know it, he's at an Aston Villa type scoring goals and playing great, and he's in England squad in 3 years' time. That's what my worry is because I think he's really obviously talented, and I think Guardiola sees that. So Nico O'Reilly, he's got a lot of talent, and when you've got that natural technical ability and goal scoring aligned with being an absolute monster physically, he could probably play anywhere. He probably could, and that's to me he doesn't know it yet. I would argue, but I think he could, and I think Guardiola sees that too, and I think he should lean into it. I think a complete midfielder is probably his potential route there if he can have the patience for it and a little bit of luck.